Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are opening up the archives, blowing off the dust, and looking at a piece of science fiction history that is arguably one of the most important short stories ever written.
It really is.
We are talking about Arena by Fredric Brown. And I know what some of you are thinking immediately. You're picturing Captain Kirk fighting a guy in a rubber lizard suit.
Which is inevitable. You cannot mention the word arena without picturing the Gorn from Star Trek. But we are going to, put the rubber suit aside for a moment because the source material is something else.
It's so much more primal.
Oh, absolutely. And it is so much darker, really.
It really is. And to set the stage properly, we need to time travel a bit.
Okay.
We are going back to June 1944. This story was published in astounding science fiction.
Yeah.
And I think that date is it's crucial context, isn't it? June 1944.
It's everything. I mean, think about what's happening in the world at that exact moment.
D-Day.
D-Day happens in June 1944. The world is completely engulfed in the most massive industrial war in human history. It creates a very specific atmosphere.
Right.
The anxiety of total war was in the air. People were thinking about conflict, not just as, a political dispute, but as an existential struggle.
It was us or them.
Exactly. Us or them. And here comes Fredric Brown, dropping a story that just distills that global anxiety into something incredibly focused and terrifyingly personal.
And it's not just some pulp story that came and went. This thing has legs.
Oh, it has massive prestige. The science fiction writers of America, the people who actually do this for a living, they voted on the best science fiction stories written before the Nebula Awards were even created in 1965.
And Arena was on that list.
It made the list. It was included in the Science Fiction Hall of Fame, Volume 1, and that book is basically the Bible of the Golden Age. If you want to understand where modern sci-fi comes from, you have to read this story. It's foundational.
So what is our mission today? We want to unpack this narrative arc because on the surface, it sounds so simple. 2 guys, 1 arena, fight to the death.
A gladiator match.
Yeah, a gladiator match. But as we dig into the outline, it becomes so clear this is much more than an action movie. It's a philosophical puzzle.
It's a locked room mystery disguised as a boxing match. And for you, the listener, the real value here is seeing how a master storyteller raises the stakes. We hear that term a lot in writing, high stakes.
Right.
But Brown manages to raise the stakes to the absolute maximum, literally the survival of the entire human species. And he does it with just 2 characters in one small room.
It's the ultimate bottleneck. All of humanity's future squeezed down to 1 guy in the dirt.
Incredible pressure.
So let's dive right into part 1, the setup. Because the context here, it's everything. We aren't just dropping into a bar fight. What is the state of the galaxy when this story opens?
It is a state of absolute, grinding existential dread. The backdrop is a war between Earth and this mysterious alien race known only as the Outsiders.
And the text is very specific about the nature of this war, right? It's not a misunderstanding. It's not a trade dispute gone wrong.
No, nothing like that. It's presented as almost a biological imperative. It is 2 expanding bubbles of civilization that have finally collided in space. There's not enough room for both.
And usually in movies, we're the underdogs, We're the scrappy rebels fighting the big bad empire.
Yeah.
Or we're the conquerors. But the situation here is different.
That's the terrifying part. The story establishes that the battle is horribly even.
Horribly even. I love that phrasing.
Isn't it great? Massive armadas from both civilizations are approaching each other. The technology is roughly equivalent. The numbers are roughly equivalent. Now, in a sports game, an evenly matched game is exciting. You want a close score.
But in a war of extermination...
In a war of extermination, evenly matched is the worst-case scenario. It's an absolute nightmare. Because if 2 massive fleets that are perfectly equal clash, nobody walks away.
It's a meat grinder.
Exactly. It's mutual destruction. Or, at best, the victor is so broken, so depleted of resources and population, that their civilization just collapses anyway. It's a lose-lose scenario written in the stars.
So you have these billions of lives, these massive ships, deep space maneuvers, all this grand scale. But then Brown just zooms the camera all the way in. We leave the admirals and the generals behind, and we focus on 1 man.
Bob Carson.
Bob Carson. Tell us about Bob. Is he a superhero? A general? A chosen one?
No, and that's the entire point. He's a functional piece of the machine. He's a pilot of a small 1-man scout ship. He's out there on the fringe of the fleet.
The tip of the spear.
Effectively, yeah. He's the first one to make contact.
So he's patrolling, he's looking for the enemy.
And he finds them. He engages an outsider scout ship. It's a classic dogfight. He's maneuvering, trying to get a lock. The tension is incredibly high because he knows the main fleets are just minutes, maybe seconds behind them. And just as he is engaging fingers on the trigger, adrenaline spiking, something strange happens.
The blackout.
He just goes dark. And this is the inciting incident. 1 minute, he's in the cockpit, surrounded by advanced technology, the hum of the engine, the vacuum of space. The next minute, he wakes up.
And he is definitely not in Kansas anymore, or space for that matter.
No. The transition is incredibly jarring. He wakes up naked.
Naked. Okay, that feels like a very specific choice for a story written in 1944.
It is a bold choice, but from a narrative standpoint, it's brilliant. It creates instant vulnerability. I mean, think about it. Carson is a pilot. His power comes from his machine.
His ship, his guns, his radio.
His suit, all of it. By stripping him naked, Brown is saying, the technology is gone. This isn't a battle of machines anymore. This is a battle of biology. This is primal.
He's stripped down to the animal level.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And he's not on a ship. He is in a small, enclosed, circular area. The dimensions are very specific in the text, about 250 yards across.
So what's that, roughly 2.5 football fields?
Yeah, about 230 meters.
Yeah.
It's a relatable scale. It's big enough to run around in, but it's small enough that you can always see the other side.
You can always see your enemy.
You can't hide. And the sensory details here are crucial. It's not just an empty room. It's hot.
Oppressively hot. Right, I remember that from the text.
Unbearably hot. The sun is just beating down.
Right.
And the color palette is completely alien. Everything is blue.
Blue.
Blue sand. Blue scrubby vegetation. Blue bushes. There's no water. So immediately, before he even sees an enemy, the environment itself is attacking him.
That's a ticking clock right there. Even if there wasn't a monster, he's going to die of dehydration or heat stroke pretty fast.
He is isolated, exposed, confused, and that confusion is where the psychological horror really begins to set in. He's a soldier, he's trained for combat, but he's not trained for this.
Okay, so let's unpack the why. Because usually if you get plucked out of a spaceship, you expect to be on an operating table or in a zoo. But Carson isn't alone.
He's not. He hears a voice in his mind. And this isn't the alien he was fighting. This is something else entirely.
This is the entity.
The entity. Now, this is a concept that pops up in sci-fi a lot, the godlike being. But Brown handles it in a really interesting way. The entity describes itself as an ancient intelligence. But it's not just a god or a wizard.
What is it?
It describes itself as a fusion of an entire race.
A fusion of an entire race. What does that even mean exactly?
Imagine a civilization that has evolved past physical bodies. They've moved beyond individuality. They have combined all their consciousness into a single, super-intelligent being. It's a gestalt mind, a collective consciousness.
So it's incredibly old, incredibly powerful, and probably sees us as ants.
Ants might be too generous.
Yeah.
It sees us as raw material,
Yeah.
as potential. And this entity has decided to intervene in the human outsider war.
Why? Is it a pacifist? Is it the space police here to break up the fight?
Not exactly. This is where the morality of the story gets fascinatingly murky. The entity operates on this cold utilitarian logic. It explains to Carson that it stopped the war because an evenly matched conflict would result in the destruction of both species.
Okay, so it wants to save life. That sounds benevolent on the surface.
Well, yes and no. It wants to save potential. It believes that if both sides are destroyed or if the victor is too damaged, neither species will ever evolve into a higher intelligence like the entity itself.
So it's protecting its own future, in a way.
It wants to preserve the possibility of a peer in the distant future. It wants to keep the game going.
That's a kind of functional arrogance, isn't it? I'm saving you so you might one day be as cool as I am.
It is the ultimate ego. It doesn't care about the individuals. It doesn't care about Carson's life or the alien's life. It doesn't even care which species survives.
It just needs a winner.
It just needs one of them to survive intact to keep the evolutionary chain going.
So it's treating the entire galaxy like a petri dish. I don't want the mold to kill itself off completely.
That's a perfect analogy. Exactly. And because it doesn't care who wins, it sets the terms. And these terms are brutal.
The solution to total war is single combat.
One-on-one. The entity has chosen one individual from each species, Bob Carson for humanity, and the alien pilot for the outsiders. It's placed them in this arena, which the entity claims exists outside of the normal flow of time.
Outside the flow of time. So the fleets, back in the real world, are frozen.
Right. They're on pause. While they're in the arena, the universe is on hold. The fleets are just hanging there in space, missiles locked, waiting for the outcome.
And the stakes.
Winner takes all.
Wrong.
Literally. If Carson wins, humanity survives and the outsiders are destroyed. If Carson loses, humanity and the entire Earth fleet is doomed to instant destruction.
Talk about pressure. I mean, you're naked, you're in a hot blue sandbox, you have no weapons, and if you die, everyone you know, everyone on Earth, every piece of human history just vanishes.
It's the ultimate high-stakes scenario, the fate of billions resting on a single, dirty, hand-to-hand fight. And the entity is the referee, but it's a referee that has already decided that one team has to be executed at the end of the match.
So Carson looks across this 250-yard arena to see his opponent, and I think this is where readers of the story get a real shock, especially if they are only picturing the Star Trek version.
Oh, absolutely. If you're picturing a guy in a rubber lizard suit with big bug eyes and a gold tunic, just erase that image from your mind immediately. The outsider in the story is genuinely, profoundly alien.
Carson calls it a roller.
A roller.
Describe the roller for us, because roller sounds almost cute, like a toy.
Anything but cute. Imagine a red sphere, about 1 yard in diameter. So think of a large beach ball.
Made of what? Like, what's the texture?
It's described as a leathery red hide. And it doesn't have legs. It doesn't have arms in the way we think of them. It moves by rolling. But it has these retractable tentacles, about a dozen of them, thin and whip-like, that it can just shoot out to grab things or attack.
And no face?
No recognizable face, no eyes that Carson can easily see, at least not from a distance. It's just a geometric shape of death.
That's so much scarier to me than a lizard man. A lizard man is humanoid. It has 2 arms, 2 legs, a head. You can read its body language. You can look it in the eye.
Exactly. The humanoid form allows for empathy, for connection.
Yeah.
You can look at the Gorn in Star Trek and think, okay, he's a soldier like me, he's a captain. But the roller, it emphasizes the pure alienness of the enemy. It's a completely different biological path. It's hard to empathize with a red sphere.
And that lack of empathy is a crucial point, because Carson, being human, actually tries to be diplomatic at first.
He does, which says a lot about his character. Despite the entity telling him kill or be killed, Carson's first impulse is to hesitate. He thinks, wait a minute, we're both sentient beings, we're both pilots. Maybe we can find a compromise. Maybe we don't have to play this God's game.
So he projects a thought. He reaches out mentally.
He attempts to communicate telepathically, or at least projects his intent of peace towards the roller.
And how does the roller respond? Does it want a truce?
Not even slightly. Carson receives a mental message projected back from the roller, and the text describes it as unremitting hatred.
Oof, that's chilling. Just a pure wave of malice.
A wave of pure, absolute malice. There is no negotiation. There is no common ground. The roller basically transmits, I am going to kill you, I am going to wipe out your species, and I am going to enjoy it.
So the diplomatic channel is officially closed.
Slam shut.
Yeah.
The reality of the situation just crashes down on Carson. This isn't a misunderstanding. It is a fight to the death against something that hates him on a fundamental biological level.
Okay. So Carson squares up. He's got to fight this red sphere. But then they discover the mechanic, the twist that makes this story a classic.
The barrier. As Carson and the roller move toward each other to fight, they hit an invisible wall right in the center of the arena.
A force field.
Effectively, yeah. But it's a strange one. Carson runs forward and bam, he slams into nothingness. He's stopped cold. The roller is stopped on the other side.
So they can't reach each other. The fight's over before it began.
They cannot physically touch. And this leads to this fascinating trial and error phase. Carson's a pilot, right? He's technically minded. He's a problem solver. So he starts testing the parameters of this cage.
Like a scientist trying to figure out the rules of the experiment.
Exactly. He tries to push his hand through, it stopped. He tries to kick it, stopped. But then, out of frustration or maybe just strategy, he picks up a stone and throws it at the roller. The stone goes right through.
Wait, his hand stopped, but the stone went through.
Correct. The roller sees this too. And suddenly, the genre of the fight shifts again. It's not a gladiator match anymore. It's a sniper duel with primitive weapons.
They start throwing rocks at each other.
They start hurling stones and any other projectiles they can find at each other through the barrier.
So inanimate objects can cross.
That's the first deduction. Carson realizes that while his living body is blocked, objects are not.
This adds such a fascinating layer of narrative tension. You have these 2 mortal enemies who want to kill each other, but they're separated by this invisible wall, and they're reduced to throwing rocks like kids on a playground, but with absolutely lethal intent.
And it completely changes the tactical landscape.
Okay.
Carson has to dodge, he has to weave, and you have to remember, he's naked. He has no armor. A sharp rock hitting him is a very serious problem.
And Carson isn't doing well in this exchange, is he?
No. This brings us to part 4, the crisis. And this is where the story gets really, really grueling. Carson isn't winning this rock fight. He gets hit in the leg by a projectile thrown by the roller.
It's not a kill shot, though. Not immediately.
No, but in this environment, it might as well be. It slices his shin open. And remember, it's hot. There's blue sand everywhere, alien bacteria. He has no medical supplies.
Infection.
Almost immediately. The leg swells up, blood poisoning or sepsis starts to set in. Carson starts to get a fever, he's weakening. He has to retreat to the edge of the arena just to get out of range of the roller's rocks.
And the thirst must be setting in, too, by this point.
Oh, the thirst is agonizing. Brown spends a lot of time describing the physical degradation of Carson. His tongue is swollen, his head is pounding from the fever, the clock isn't just ticking anymore, it's racing. He knows he's going to die from the infection or dehydration long before the roller even needs to throw another rock.
And the roller, what is it doing while Carson is dying?
It's waiting. It's patient. It knows it has the upper hand. It just has to wait for the soft, fleshy human to rot.
This is where the story gets really dark. Because the roller isn't just a mindless killing machine, it's cruel.
It is deeply, sadistically cruel. While Carson is lying there, delirious, he watches the roller. And the roller has found a lizard. One of the few native animals in the arena. A little blue lizard.
And it catches it.
It catches it with one of its tentacles. And it proceeds to torture it. It pulls off the lizard's legs one by one. It just torments the thing.
That's horrifying. It's not just killing for survival.
No, it's killing for pleasure. And it serves 2 narrative purposes. 1, it shows the absolute lack of empathy in the outsider species. But 2, it leads to the turning point of the entire story.
Because it throws the lizard at him.
Seemingly to taunt Carson. Or maybe just to discard the broken toy, the roller throws the dead lizard through the barrier at Carson.
It throws the lizard through the barrier.
Right. Because inanimate objects can pass. Dead things are inanimate. That fits the rule that Carson had already established in his head.
But then Carson looks at the lizard.
And this is the aha moment. The moment the light bulb goes on in his fever-addled brain. Carson is feverish, he's barely conscious, but he looks at this mangled lizard landing in the sand near him. And he sees it's not dead.
It's alive after all that.
It's twitching. It's still breathing. It was just unconscious from the torture.
Whoa. Okay, let's pause and connect the dots here, because this is the key to the entire puzzle. The rule wasn't living versus dead.
No. Carson's initial hypothesis was living things are stopped, dead things pass. But that was wrong. The lizard is live and it passed through the barrier.
So what is the actual rule?
Carson makes this brilliant deduction. He realizes the barrier is not physical in the traditional sense. It is a mental barrier. It stops consciousness. It stops the thinking mind.
So if you are awake and aware and thinking, the barrier sees you as alive and stops you.
Exactly. But an unconscious being, like a knocked-out lizard, has no active consciousness blocking the passage. To the barrier, an unconscious lizard is the same as a rock. It's just matter.
That changes everything. But it also presents a completely terrifying solution.
The gambit. Carson realizes that the only way to get to the roller and kill it, because he has to kill it to save Earth, is to cross the barrier.
And the only way to cross the barrier
is to be unconscious.
He has to knock himself out.
Deliberately.
That is just, it's insane. You are in a death match with a telepathic sphere of hate, and your strategy is, I'm going to render myself completely helpless and just hope for the best.
It's a desperate last-ditch plan. But think about his options. He is dying of sepsis. He has maybe hours left, if that. He has to take the risk.
But how do you even do that logistically? You can't just stand there and punch yourself. You'd just fall down on your own side of the barrier.
He needs momentum. He needs to become a projectile. So he finds a slope in the sand leading down toward the barrier. He calculates the distance. He figures if he can run fast enough, get enough speed, and then knock himself out right before he hits the invisible wall.
Gravity and momentum will do the rest.
Gravity and momentum will roll his unconscious body through to the enemy's side. He's literally trusting physics to save humanity.
Imagine the courage that takes. To run full tilt at a wall you can't see, smash your own head with a rock, and trust that you'll wake up on the other side before the monster gets to you.
And he has to time it perfectly. If he knocks himself out too early, he stops short of the barrier. If he does it too late, he hits the barrier while still conscious and just bounces off.
It has to be perfect.
It has to be perfect. So he fashions a weapon, a crude harpoon made of a stick and a sharp stone, and he straps it to his wrist so he doesn't lose it when he falls. And he goes for it.
He runs.
He sprints down the slope. He sees the roller waiting on the other side. The roller's probably confused. Why is the human running at the wall again?
And then?
Carson smashes his own head with a stone. Lights out.
Does it work?
He wakes up.
Where?
He's groggy. His head is just splitting. But he opens his eyes. And he is on the roller side of the arena. He rolled through.
The barrier didn't stop the meat because the mind was asleep.
Exactly. The mind was the key.
And the roller, where is it?
The roller is approaching. It's moving slowly, cautiously. It probably assumes Carson died of the fever or the impact of hitting his head. It's coming to inspect the corpse.
Surprise attack?
Carson plays dead for just a second longer, letting it get closer. And then he surges up.
This must be incredibly visceral in the text.
It's brutal. Carson jabs that makeshift harpoon right into the leathery hide of the roller. The text describes this silent scream of agony from the alien. Carson is fighting for the survival of the species here. He finishes it off with a knight he had napped from a flint-like rock.
So it's primitive weapons against an alien intelligence.
It's primal violence. He rips the roller apart, and the moment the roller dies, the moment the life leaves the alien, the test is over.
Bam, instant transport.
Part 5, the aftermath. Carson is instantly back in his scout ship.
No transition time, no elevator music, no debrief with the entity.
None. He is back in the cockpit. And remember, the entity said this was outside the flow of time? Carson checks the chronometer. It's as if no time has passed. Not a single second. He's right back at the moment of engagement where he was before the blackout.
But the war, the fleet, did it work?
He receives a message from his commander. And the tone of the message is just shock and jubilation. The commander says that Earth's first salvo, the very first shots fired, somehow caused the entire enemy fleet to disintegrate.
The entire fleet, even the ships that were out of range.
Everything. The outsiders are just gone. Their ships turned to dust.
So the entity kept its promise.
It did. The death of the roller in the arena triggered the instant destruction of the outsiders in the real universe.
That is a terrifying amount of power, to wipe out an entire civilization with a snap of its fingers.
It is. And Carson's just sitting there in his cockpit, listening to the cheers over the radio. And he's the only one who knows the truth of why they won.
Does he have any proof? Or does he just have to live with this memory?
He has the evidence. He looks down at his leg, at his shin where the rock hit him. He sees the scar. The entity healed the infection and the wound before sending him back. But it left the scar.
The receipt.
Exactly, the receipt. He knows he didn't hallucinate it. He knows he didn't dream it. He really was there. He really did save humanity.
But he can't tell anyone, can he? I mean, who would believe him?
He wisely decides to keep his experience to himself. That's the line from the story. And you have to think about it. If he goes to his commander and says, "Hey guys, I was teleported by a super god to a blue sandbox where I fought a beach ball and knocked myself out with a rock to win the war," what happens?
He gets a psych evaluation and a straitjacket for the rest of his life.
Exactly. So he carries this burden alone. He knows that humanity survived not because of our great fleet or our technology, but because he was willing to smash his own head in with a rock.
That's a heavy ending. It isolates him completely.
It does. It makes him a silent guardian.
But speaking of heavy hitters, we have to talk about the cultural legacy of this story. Because while Carson kept it a secret, Fredric Brown did not. And Part 6 creates this bridge to something almost everyone knows.
We are back to Star Trek.
The original series, 1967, an episode literally titled Arena.
This is one of the most famous, most iconic episodes of Star Trek. Captain Kirk versus the Gorn, the Vasquez Rocks, the Bamboo Cannon.
It's a classic. Now, here is where it gets interesting from a legal perspective, because the Star Trek episode is remarkably similar to Brown's story.
It's more than similar. It's the same setup. An advanced entity stops a space battle, teleports the captains to a deserted planet, tells them to fight to the death to decide the fate of their crews.
Did the showrunners admit it? Or was it just a coincidence?
Well, they admitted it eventually. The story goes that the scriptwriter, Gene L. Kuhn, wrote the episode. And as it was going through production, someone in the research department and the legal department said, "Hey, this sounds exactly like that Fredric Brown story from the 40s.
We might get sued into oblivion."
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, to avoid legal problems, the studio did the right thing. They agreed to give Fredric Brown payment and a story credit for the episode. So if you watch the credits of that episode today, you will see From a Story by Fredric Brown.
That's good. At least he got paid and got the credit.
Yeah.
A writer getting paid is always a good ending.
Yes. But honestly, while the Gorn is iconic, the Star Trek version changes the solution in a fundamental way. And I think this speaks to the difference in the cultural mood between 1944 and 1967.
How so? What's the big change?
In Brown's story, the solution is kill or be killed. It's total war. The only way to survive is to completely destroy the enemy. In Star Trek, what does Kirk do?
He builds that cannon, he shoots the Gorn with the diamond, he defeats him, but he refuses to kill him.
Right. He holds a sharp rock over the Gorn's throat, but he throws it away. He shows mercy.
And the entity in Star Trek likes that.
The Metrons, the entity in the show, they appear and say, wow, we thought you were savages, but you showed mercy. Maybe there is hope for you after all. And they let both sides go.
So Roddenberry's version is about moral evolution. It's about rising above our base instincts.
Right.
Brown's version is about the grim necessity of survival of the fittest.
Exactly. Brown was writing during World War II. The idea of showing mercy to an enemy that wants to completely exterminate you wasn't really on the menu. Roddenberry was writing in the 60s with all the idealism of that era, looking for a more utopian ideal.
It's fascinating how the exact same plot can deliver two completely different messages just by changing the last 2 minutes.
It really is. It shows the power of a good premise. But Arena didn't stop with Star Trek.
Sure.
This story just rippled out through pop culture for decades.
Where else did it show up?
Well, Marvel Comics did a very faithful adaptation in Worlds Unknown back in 1973. The Outer Limits had an episode called Fun and Games with a very similar premise. Blake Seven, a classic British sci-fi show, did an episode called Duel, even He-Man.
He-Man, seriously.
The Arena episode of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, it's become a universal trope now. 2 enemies, neutral ground, forced combat. But Fredric Brown really drew the blueprint.
And has it appeared more recently?
Oh yeah, Star Trek. Strange New Worlds. In Season 3, there's an episode, Terrarium, that is another adaptation. They went back to the well again. It's a story structure that just works.
It really speaks to the strength of the core idea. 2 enter, 1 leaves. The simplicity is perfect.
And we should definitely mention Fredric Brown himself for a minute. He wasn't a one-hit wonder. This wasn't a fluke.
No, he was quite versatile, wasn't he?
Very.
Yeah.
He wrote a ton of great sci-fi. Martians Go Home, which is this hilarious satire where the Martians invade, but they're just annoying little green men who won't leave you alone. And What Mad Universe, which is a brilliant deconstruction of sci-fi tropes.
But he also wrote mysteries, right? He was a big name in crime fiction.
A lot of mysteries. The Fabulous Clip Joint, The Screaming Mimi.
Yeah.
And you can actually see that mystery writer's influence in Arena.
How so? Where do you see that?
The barrier. The way Carson deduces the rules of the barrier feels like a detective solving a crime. He looks at the clues, the stone passes, his hand doesn't, the unconscious lizard passes, and he forms a theory. It's logical deduction under extreme pressure.
So it's not just, I'm stronger than you. The climax of the story is, I'm smarter than you.
Exactly. It's an intellectual victory before it's a physical one.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, let's try to synthesize this. What is the core takeaway for us if I'm listening to this on my commute? What do I take with me from Arena?
I think the core theme at the end of the day is that intelligence and adaptability triumph over brute force and blind hatred. The roller was physically stronger, it had natural weapons, it had this overwhelming telepathic hate. But Carson used his brain. He observed, he hypothesized, and he took a massive calculated risk.
And that mental barrier concept, I can't get that out of my head. It feels so modern.
That's the most poetic part of the whole story. The barrier literally stopped consciousness. It's a metaphor that just hits you like a ton of bricks. I mean, sometimes our own consciousness, our fear, our overthinking, our ego is the wall that traps us.
Carson had to stop thinking to win.
He had to let go. He had to surrender control to regain control. It's a Zen moment in the middle of a brutal bloodbath.
I want to leave the listener with a final thought, something to chew on. We talked about the entity being this benevolent judge, or at least a preserver of life, but was it?
That is the provocative question, isn't it? Is it justifiable to facilitate the genocide of one species to save another, all in the name of potential evolution?
It feels like playing God, but in the cruelest way possible.
The entity calls itself advanced, but what did it actually do? It set up a dogfight. It arranged a murder. Was this a rescue mission, or was it a forced gladiatorial execution for its own amusement?
And if the entity is that powerful, couldn't it have just stopped the war, forced a peace treaty, separated the species? Why the fight to the death?
Why the blood sport? Maybe the entity isn't as evolved as it thinks it is. Maybe it just likes to watch things fight.
That is a chilling thought. If you haven't read the original text of Arena, go find it. It's short, it's punchy, and it's a genuine piece of history. Or watch the Star Trek episode and compare the Gorn to the roller.
You'll never look at a red beach ball the same way again.
Exactly. Thanks for listening to this deep dive. We'll see you next time.
Keep thinking.